Cool. Hey guys.
Hi.
I like doing these shows. I like safety shows because I always learn more than one thing. I learn a lot of things. So welcome to the studio. It's nice to have Whitecap back in the studio. We got a spectator. I'll keep him at bay for now. He's not on the mic. He put you guys on the mic. So what I want to first do is introduce everybody one by one. So Henry's here. How do you pronounce your last name?
Gouthro.
Gouthro. What's your official title there at Whitecap?
Safety Product Associate.
Associate. Then we got Eric
title for sure.
I'm Eric Huard. I'm the Safety Category Manager. Last time we spoke, I was one of the Safety Program Managers.
What's the difference?
The difference is they stick me behind a desk.
Then or now?
Now.
Shouldn't you be on a site, on a job site?
I don't think I'm pretty enough to go out anymore.
Have you seen the construction people out there?
Yeah, so what does that say about me?
Andrea, what's your official title?
I am a district sales manager.
Okay. And you guys are all about safety.
Yeah.
So this whole show is going to be about safety. We've got a few toys on the desk here, and we're going to talk about them eventually. But I do want to do a quick shout out. You guys were nice enough to do a little TCL swag, safety, and surprise, surprise, we're going to be giving away 25 of them. 25, and I'll let you guys know later on what you got to do, what hoop to jump to. It's easy to figure it out to get one of these things, and then reach out to me through DMs or an email, and we'll figure that one out. But whoever's listening, answer the question, and you guys will get one. The first 25 will get one. Okay, good. So, all right, let's begin. I want to know the history of Whitecap. I know a little bit about the history of Whitecap, but you guys want to tell me a little bit more about the history of Whitecap?
Sure. So we are Brock White, Burfasco, and National Concrete Accessories that became Whitecap. So essentially a cradle to grave construction and industrial distributor. We have 65 plus locations across Canada, so coast to coast.
Every province,
Not every province. We're not
okay.
in Quebec.
Most.
But most provinces. And, you know, when the three business units came together, we decided that we were going to take on a new name. The name that we took on was Whitecap because that's what our U.S. side is. So in North America, we are the largest construction supplier. We do everything from rebar. We have a manufacturing facility in Toronto here that does rebar chair and a whole bunch of rebar accessories. That's part of the National Concrete Accessories division that came together. Burfasco, where I worked when we originally met.
Yep.
That was all the fastener business, the safety business. Brock White was a whole bunch of building materials. So really coming together, and what we're trying to basically do is own the job site. So anything you guys would need, you know, outside of lumber or wet concrete, you can give us a call and we can help you out with.
One-stop shop is what we like to try and be known as.
Yeah, rigid insulation, wire mesh, coil ties, right into strut, rod, accessories.
Nuts and bolts, fasteners.
Nuts and bolts. Yeah,
tools,
safety,
Power
MRO.
tools, safety,
Safety,
ladders.
lots of safety.
Lots of safety.
Yeah.
Ladders, scaffolding? No.
We don't really get into the scaffolding side, but, you know, lifting and rigging, that kind of stuff. Lifting anything with a crane, you can come to us with lifting straps and whatnot.
And if there are any questions, I guess the website. What's the website? www.
Whitecapsupply.com.
And then to reach out to anybody or just actually walk right into the store and then make friends with whoever's handling the counter there, right? And then make them your best friend then. Simple
Absolutely.
as that.
Exactly.
Social media.
Whitecap Supply as well.
You're supposed to do it all three at the same time. At Whitecap Supply.
Do we need to do it a cappella or something?
Whitecap Supply.
Thank you, Andrea.
All right. Where do we want to begin? Who wants to begin? Throw your hard hat into the...
Want to talk fall protection?
Yeah,
Let's start with fall protection.
Let's start with fall protection.
Fall
Where do we
protection.
Yes, that's my love language.
Where has fall protection come from and where is it today?
I have been dealing with fall protection as a specialist for 18 years, so it's come a long way. And I would say probably
Saved a lot of lives.
hopefully, or educated enough people so that they made the right choices to pick out the right gear. And I would say probably in the last 10 years and more so in the last 6 years, a lot of CSA standards that have changed drastically. And a lot of them affect the construction market specifically, like the self-retracting lifeline standard with the leading edge component, right? In the past, we've seen fatalities, we've seen injuries that have come from non-leading edge products. So it's the education component that goes behind it as to why you can't just use a regular cable SRL, or why a lanyard will fail in those instances.
And then I guess we want to also let everybody know that there's no point in wearing a harness if you're not wearing it correctly.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't do the purpose of what it was designed for, to save your life.
Absolutely. It's a full system, right? We look at the ABCs and Ds. So the anchor, your anchor connectors and the substrate to which you're attached to. If you're using the wrong anchor, there's a failure. The body support, if your harnesses aren't properly fitted for you, isn't the right harness for the application, right? That can have a failure. The connecting link, so your lanyard or your self-retracting lifeline, again, if it's non-leading edge and you're in a leading edge scenario, that's going to have a failure. And then, of course, comes down to anybody who's working at heights has to have a rescue plan. You can't hang in a harness all day.
It's very true. And that has to be discussed at the start of the day.
Absolutely.
Right.
What's your rescue plan, right?
Yeah.
And especially on a construction site, that's going to change sometimes day to day, where we think that a scissor lift would fit there. If somebody fell off of the second story or third story, no problem. We got a scissor lift, we can get it. But then the next day, there's a truck coming in, offloading, hollow core, precast, whatever it is. So your plan is going to change, and sometimes it can change hour to hour. So
based on scope of work and
Absolutely.
project.
Absolutely.
Everything's custom. It's always unique, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to touch upon this harness that we have here on the table?
Yeah, so this is a pretty cool harness. So this harness here actually has a bar that goes down the back. And the whole purpose of this bar is that when we look at twin leg, like leading edge systems, 8-footers, that's 16 feet of cable on a worker's back. So it's about 8 to 10 pounds, depending on the manufacturer.
Okay.
If we're not wearing our harnesses properly, we get D-ring, slippage, and a few other things that happen, but we get a lot of weight that's going to sit like on the shoulders or the lower back.
Transfer to the lower back. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens is, so the purpose of this bar is to distribute the weight. It's like a hiker's backpack. So if you ever went hiking, you have a proper hiking backpack, there's a strap that goes around your waist and it helps redistribute the weight to your hips versus your shoulders. So it reduces a lot of fatigue. So when you wear a harness like this, you can actually fit your fingers kind of in between the shoulder strap.
Because the bar
weight is taking the weight
it.
and reducing that weight. So it's a fantastic, piece of equipment. Of course, it comes with a big body belt. It's a little bit bulkier than the average. But when we start looking at, and I've helped a lot of customers out where they've had a lot of back injuries. So WSIB claims that led from, the new products or the new SRLs that they're wearing, and we kind of eliminated the issues by moving folks into this harness.
And that's just would that be more extreme construction situations or?
Yeah, so this would be like your forming guys, anybody
Yeah.
who's working in a work positioning application where they're going to have chain rebar assembly on the front too. But you could move somebody who just needs a back D-ring. It's kind of overkill because you're going to have the side D-rings on it too. But if they do have a lot of back problems, we can help reduce that. Even the fatigue that happens throughout the day, not necessarily like lower back or upper back strain, but just fatigue, right? That muscle fatigue.
I saw you in the corner of my eye, you were grabbing something.
No, I wasn't grabbing anything. But
Okay,
what's been going on is as you start getting into the higher technology, the self-retracting lifelines, the things that are meant for leading edge. So if you go over the edge, they want thicker cable.
Yes.
Obviously, all that stuff creates more weight, right? And as you're walking around all day and you have that weight hanging on your
fatigue.
back,
Yeah.
you're starting to create shoulder problems, neck problems, upper back, lower back stuff. That's what that's designed to alleviate. We've started to fix one problem and then created another one with the extra weight. So having the extra support now starts to alleviate that problem that we're generating by having that leading edge stuff.
When was this introduced to the market?
So this was introduced, my goodness, I want to say 2018 into the market.
So fairly new.
And fall protection is still fairly new, right? When we look at the design of self-retracting lifelines and lanyards, it's still a fairly new product in the last 30 years, really.
Yeah.
And so that's where all these changes, there's been, like I said, the SRL standard changed. The last time it had a major change was in 1998. There were some smaller changes in between. But in
a long
2019, it
time.
was a drastic change. Yeah.
And what's been happening in the last couple of years, now they're coming out with versions of this that are a little bit more inexpensive. They're still on the higher end premium fall protection, but now that aluminum bars, they have plastic versions now. So now you can get a little bit more accessible for everybody out there.
My thought process is that when it comes about expensive, like most tradespeople have no problem spending money on tools. They're expensive tools. But if you don't buy this and save your life, then how valuable is your life? Or
You say
the
there's a
injury
boost.
that might take your entire life. Like for the rest of your life, you'll be with an injury. So how expensive is that going to become, right? That's how I look at it. So getting lids, getting harnesses, getting all kinds of safety equipment. The price is a price for a reason. They're not trying to gouge anybody. The price is the price to save your life, save you from injuries, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
As you move up in the chain of costs, especially with fall protection, there are a lot of added features that come along with those products that you pay for. They can be, lighter weight hardware from going from steel to aluminum, things like that.
This is like two handles and a jetpack away from a Bond movie. You know what I mean?
This is if you want to buy a vet, this is the Corvette of products there. But it comes down to, at the end of the day, first and foremost, is when it comes to fall protection, especially harnesses, is proper fit and comfort.
Yes.
Right. I would say 99% of the time when I'm on a site, I'm pointing out to guys or gals on the site about proper fit. I see their D-ring placement is wrong, or their leg straps are too loose, or their subpelvic, or their harness is too big, or it's too small. Right. So regardless of the gender, there's a lot of conversation. I dispel a lot of myths because I've been doing this for so long. There's no such true thing when we look at women's harnesses. It's based on the skeletal system, proper fit, proper comfort. Not every female wants a crossover harness, and not every female wants a vest style harness. There's so many different makes out there now that making sure that there's the capability of having extra small to triple extra large, 100 pounds to 400 pounds, right? Dispelling some of those, I need to have this type of harness for this job, and then they go out and they buy an extra small, and they really should be in a medium. A harness that's too small or a harness that's too big, in the event of a fall, could have some serious injuries and consequences.
Will that create suspension trauma a lot sooner?
Yeah, if
I
a
guess.
harness is too big, the subpelvic strap isn't going to come in contact with your butt, right? That's the whole point of the
So
subpelvic
it's
strap.
muscle tissue that's actually doing what you don't want, right?
Well, the subpelvic strap, when a properly fitted harness is worn and they fall, the subpelvic strap will sit underneath the seat of their butt, it's great. The butt muscle is a very big muscle. But if the harness is too big, that subpelvic strap isn't going to stop at their butt. It's going to slide up their back, which means that their leg straps, the only place that the leg straps are going to stop is within the groin area. So we're going to have suspension trauma, right? We need rescue to happen, but we also have some other things that are going to happen too.
Yeah, other kinds of trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. We know what you're talking about. We get it. We don't want that. I get it. Okay. What else? You guys have harnesses on. What are the difference between?
So harnesses come on all kind of different price points. So our more economy focused version is what I'm wearing. It's kind of where we like to start off the fall protection journey with people. It's not the cheapest.
Sorry, I
that you
totally
can get.
forgot. You should actually stand up and model. Give me a little Zoolander in the corner there so people can see the full little get up there. No?
I have to be an ambi-turner.
Is that what it is? I didn't go that far in the movie.
You can only turn left.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, did you guys pull the harness? Ah.
We got to do our leg straps up.
Well, this is the Construction Life podcast.
Yeah, it's real. Simple
So
as that.
it's real because when you're, looking around the job site,
I'll put a lid on. I'll put a lid on, but I don't have
a
the
lot of
harness
people
on.
don't do them up.
So when he stands up too, we'll talk about like proper fit and comfort at the same time, right? So chest straps, we always say your chest strap on a vest style harness needs to be in line with your armpits. So your armpits, if it sits too high, so right here, so it's 8 to 10 inches below your chin or in line with your armpits. If it's too high, in the event of a fall, everything shifts up 1 foot. So if that 1 foot. So if your chest strap is here, where's it going to sit? It's going to sit here.
You got to bend down.
But if your chest strap is sitting down here, and I can take your shoulder straps and do this, you have the potential to slip out of it, which we don't want to have happen.
Got it.
So that is number one. Number 2, these are 5-point harnesses for a reason.
Only the one way, though.
Give us a spin.
So his subpelvic strap is sitting perfectly where it should be. It's sitting below the base of his seat. And then the D-ring sits right between your shoulder blades. So right in between your shoulder blades. You don't want it down here. You want it up here.
Got it.
And then it's a 5-point harness for a reason, because there's 5 points of adjustment. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then the leg straps, to make sure that they're tight enough, usually you take your opposite hand, slide it under the leg strap, make a fist, and then try and pull that fist out. If you tear off the first layer of skin like that,
So that's
it's
how
perfect.
snug.
That is the perfect. Leg strap's too loose, subpelvic strap doesn't come in contact with the butt, means that the subpelvic strap goes up your back, and then your leg straps go where we just talked about.
Nobody's ever taught me that. Nobody's ever said that to me.
18 years of saying the same thing day after day.
Yeah, but I wonder how many guys and girls on the job site actually knew that.
So that's part of the Working at Heights instruction course that you're supposed to be getting. Whenever we deliver the courses, that's part of it. Put it on, teaching that exact thing of, can you put your hand in and then make a fist and not be able
I know,
to
but
pull
I'm
it
just
out.
being honest. This is the first time that I've heard a safety professional tell me that.
And that's usually where I've always started. And the same thing with here, there's on this harness here and the one that Henry has there on the bottom and on the top, they're lanyard keepers.
Yep.
Your lanyards should never be hooked into your web. They should never be hooked on your front D, onto your chest, or onto anything else other than the lanyard keepers, because everything in fall protection has a breaking strength of 5,000 pounds. So your snap hook, your rebar hook, your webbing, everything is 5,000 pound tear strength. So if I hook a rebar hook onto here and something gets caught, a piece of machinery comes by, what's the first thing
that's pulling out of your job site?
What's
you're
the first
going
thing
for a
that's going to
ride.
give?
It's going to be that.
It's going to be a human being, as opposed to what
Well,
if it's hooked in
If you're not
here.
clipped on here, which breaks away, you're going for a ride with that cement truck as it
Yeah.
goes down the road.
What's the force when you do fall? Is it greater than 5,000?
No, so all the anchors, everything have that tearaway breaking strength of 5,000. When I used to do the demo trucks, a non-shock absorbing dynamic force. So if I took a non-shock absorbing lanyard and I dropped it a foot, I would generate about 2,900 to 3,500 pounds of force. Maximum arresting force in the green book states 1,800 pounds of force. An energy absorbing lanyard between 600 and 900 pounds of force on the body. Leading edge, depending on where you're anchored, you're between 600, 900, or 1,300 pounds if you're tied off at foot level.
So at 5,000, you're perfect.
So 5,000 is the breaking strength of
yeah.
things, but we have shock absorbers or brakes within our self-retracting lifelines that reduces the energies transmitted to the body. So it's much less. That's where the other numbers Andrea was quoting come into effect. So it's mandated to be a lot lower force on your body, because if you have too much force on your body, basically what ends up happening is your bones will stop in a fall, but all the other gooey bits in you will keep going. Mm-hmm. So it just tears everything apart.
It's a good way to picture it.
Yeah, and you look at it where somebody could have been subjected to a fall, they look totally okay, but you can have a lot of internal bleeding happening, right? And so that comes into the rescue, right? How quickly do we rescue somebody?
Now,
What's the timeline?
It should also be noted, I guess, that if you do have a fall, you don't go right back to work.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Even if you feel okay, even though the super's saying get back to work.
You should always get checked out by
Yes.
medical attention,
Yeah.
because again, you don't know if do you have internal bleeding.
Yeah.
Do weird things happen in a fall. Also, how long have you been suspended there before they got you down?
Yeah.
Because there is something that's called suspension trauma. So I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're in a fall.
Okay.
Or your buddy's in a fall. How long
Okay.
do you have to take to get him down?
How long do I have to take
Yeah.
to get him down?
Yeah.
Depends on what the plan is in play that I've decided to get him down. No?
What is it? What do you think is the general rule of
As
thumb?
quickly as possible,
That is true.
right? That's what I figure. But
Sounds like you've spoken to somebody before
yeah,
about
and
this
that's
subject.
where. But I've also been told numbers too, right? People have shared
Yeah,
numbers.
what numbers have you heard?
17, 15, like minutes. That's what I've heard, right?
Yeah,
But
so
it depends on the person, and there's a lot of variables.
So that 15 minutes that you need to rescue somebody has come out of a study that they did with U.S. Navy sailors. They put them in harnesses, they hoisted them up, and then they said, "You tell me when you feel uncomfortable."
But that's not a job site.
Oh, that's also,
That's not dynamic forces
Yeah.
in a
Dynamic
fall,
forces.
right?
Yes.
That's a
I would say generally a U.S. Serviceman is probably in a little bit better condition than I am physically. So, and you could probably say that about a
But that's
lot
a
of people at a
controlled
construction
situation,
site.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly.
But that's where that 15 minutes comes from. So is that truly, typical of what you're going to see after a fall? Not really. So the answer is as soon as possible. You want to get them down as soon as possible.
Did they ever test construction workers in the same scenario as the service people?
No,
No.
but I don't even think that the Ministry of Labor, like when there have been falls, if they actually record how or ask how long somebody was suspended for before a rescue happened. So I think that there's a gap in there into the data. So when a fall happens on a site and somebody's rescued, we're not even tracking those numbers
You don't
that go
look
along
at
with
your
it.
watch or you don't look at a timer.
No, nobody, everybody's
No.
like, let's go,
Yeah,
right?
figure it
Yeah,
out.
you,
Yeah.
you got to jump into action. That's why it's important to have the rescue plan, because everybody has to know what they're doing in the event of a fall.
As quickly as possible.
Because it's got to be as quickly as possible. And your rescue plans don't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as get the scissor lift or get a step ladder, put it under their feet. Obviously, that works. The ladder works if they're conscious. If they're unconscious, it gets a little bit more difficult. There's other devices that you can do to hook onto them to raise or lower them down. It all is job site dependent and what you have around you to work with. If you are in a fall, weird things happen with blood pressure. You can lose consciousness, get nausea, because the leg straps of your harness can restrict your blood flow to your legs, because one of the major arteries goes on the inside of your leg. That's where a lot of the pressure is going to be from your leg strap. You can get blood pooling that's happening in your legs. And if you're suspended for too long, it can start building up toxins in your legs. And then when you get them down, it releases that toxins. And where do the toxins go? It's returning right to your heart.
Is it?
Yeah. All the veins lead straight
And we
back to
haven't
your
even
heart.
spoken about construction workers
So-
that have underlying health issues to begin with.
Yeah.
Not saying
Yeah.
that they do, but there's some big players
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. So, and when those toxins start flooding your heart and your system, it can lead to heart attacks,
Has it?
all the
Blood
rest
clots.
of that stuff.
Yeah.
Blood clots
It's-
could be an
oh,
issue.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So then there's ways of, we've rescued a worker, what do we do? Keep them in a seated position. We're not taking off their harnesses. Usually I've always trained on rescue is hold them by their D-ring or grab underneath their straps, keep them seated, versus the opposite of what we're so used to in first aid is to put them in a recovery position, which we don't want to necessarily lay them out flat. That's when paramedics come in
And don't take the harness off.
and leave the harness.
You want the leg
So
straps
leave it
there
on
Yeah.
the way it
to
is,
help,
the way they
to help put a little bit of pressure on the area. And then if a blood clot formed or something like that, it just helps slow the blood flow a little bit, so then they can get medical attention.
And then paramedics would actually just cut them out, like cut the harness out to get the person out. That's the idea.
But depending on what the injury, if
Yeah.
if somebody's got a broken hip, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once they're there and they're under medical care, if they're fine to undo the buckles, they'll undo the buckles. It's not that big of a problem. But then you have somebody who's monitoring their heart, and if there is any sort of health concern that happens, they're right there to help.
So basically, the finish line is not when you get the person down from the situation. There's still a finish line that's coming up
Yeah.
to get them safely back on their feet, right?
Yeah. So if you do fall to avoid suspension trauma, there's a few things that you can do. One, if you're near any sort of structure, and you can get your feet up on it, that will help alleviate the pressure around your legs.
But not too high, because if you climb too high and you
don't
fall
wanna fall
again,
again, yes.
you're going to fall onto a system that's already been deployed.
That's why I said just to alleviate the pressure.
So
a little.
would
You
it
just want to
fail? It's
lift
not
up a
prepared
bit.
for it.
No, you're gonna go into a fall where you're gonna potentially have more dynamic forces again because a lanyard's already been partially deployed or an
Got it.
SRL has already been deployed.
That
But yeah,
system that absorbs the energy has already gone through a shock, so it's not going to work properly again the next
That's
time.
a good point. Very good point.
So yeah, getting on the structure, like I said, just lifting yourself up a little bit to relieve the pressure on the leg straps. Again, don't try to climb. Let somebody come help you with a rescue. The other thing to do is grabbing your knee and pulling it to your chest. Kind of if you've fallen, you're pulling like this, because then that starts to alleviate the pressure.
On both, so you
And then-
you would alternate both
Yeah, and then
knees?
you alternate
Yeah, back
knees.
up.
So
Okay.
you just pull them to the chest, hold for a little bit, switch to the other one, hold to the chest, hold for a little bit.
It's like treading water, but with gravity.
And now you're just slowly leaving the pressure on your veins and your arteries in your leg and letting that blood flow through that leg and then going back to the other one.
Okay.
So the last thing.
Oh, sorry. Everyone's pointing at everybody.
I know.
I'm pointing to you because I know you have them
I know
on
he
your
has them on there too.
I know what you're gonna say. It's the
What's that?
so
We're
on
all-
these higher end harnesses, there's actually trauma straps that you would actually. I don't know if you want to show. I have them.
You have them. So stand up and
Stand up.
Okay.
it can be your turn to model.
Are we getting it?
I mean, I don't know how good this.
No. He should be in his close-up. You'll see it in his close-up.
So these guys.
Yeah.
You pull that out. You'd pull it out of both.
There's a
Both
couple different
pockets?
types, but on this one, you pull them out of, they look like little red ribbons. You pull them out.
I mean, imagine doing that when you're hanging, though.
This is
Pulling
what I mean.
this out,
This is exactly the point
putting
that I
this
was going to bring
around
up,
my
where
foot,
we
right?
forget. Like when I went
hard
skydiving
to
for the
do
first
now.
time, I forgot every single little lesson.
So
Yeah.
what you want to do is
And
you
enjoy the
connect them
ride.
together in front of your knee.
Yeah, right.
You loop it up a little higher.
On the mic,
so
right?
he's done it up just below his knee.
Got
and then
it.
what allows him to do is
push.
you can't really see because it's below the desk, but he's got his foot in the loop now, and he's stepping down into
Oh,
it.
I got it.
It's a
Okay.
big U shape.
So it's a big U
So
shape
it's like
like
a rope
Andrea
ladder
has
kind of
now.
thing. It's just okay.
Yeah.
And it's
that
adjustable with
relieves-
different loops, so you
that
can get it
relieves
to the right
pressure.
height.
And the biggest thing too, keeping in mind, we go back to like how that D-ring was and where your chest strap is, everything's going to shift up a foot. So with this
1 foot?
Yeah, on average, it's about a foot. So you're going to have some stretch in your harness. There's going to be movement. Everything's going to shift up.
My D ring is going to be probably about up here.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's certain harnesses that were out there. I don't think they make them anymore, but they were kind of like stretchy material. They actually had.
Oh, they still make them.
Do they? Yeah. So they.
Like a bungee harness?
It kind of felt like a bungee harness.
Because everything feels tight when you have it on and it doesn't move with you. So they came out with a brilliant idea. Well, what happens if we let the harness kind of move with you? And then you'll be comfortable while you're working.
Spandex
That's the
harness?
last. Yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
little bit of
Spandex in it.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Just in
But
case.
I don't know. That's the
if
last thing you
good
want in a fall.
idea.
And actually, the user manual. So going back to how important the user manuals are, because this user manual, and we all have. There's 4 different harnesses on this table, and what we're wearing, they all have different requirements by the manufacturer, right, on care, use, maintenance, et cetera. And that specific harness actually had a 2-foot stretch to it. So you always had to keep in mind, like those are little things that.
So I'll ask you a question. If I have that D ring adjusted too high on my back and it stretches 2 foot, what's going to happen?
It's going to go past your...
It's going to go past my head, and it goes past my head.
It's choking
now,
you.
What happens if I go backwards? To have the opportunity, or I guess
No, you're going to
misfortune, I would say, of falling out of your harness.
Yeah, you're going to fall out of your harness.
Yeah.
100% you will fall
Yeah.
out of your harness. So obviously those aren't the good harnesses, no?
It's
They're being used?
In my
No, we don't need to
opinion,
get into it.
in
Okay.
my opinion, no. That's the last thing you want.
I don't think I
in
want
a
elasticated.
harness.
I don't need like a waistband elasticated harness. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it
it
was-
was,
need
it was
any
always
extra
over
lycra.
the shoulders was stretching.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Henry. We
Well, I was
all of
just
us
gonna-
interrupted you.
Oh, it's okay. Well, what I was just gonna ask you, like, why did they make them?
Again, for comfort while you're wearing
Right.
it, so it moves
Yeah.
with the body as you try
But
to
what's
be
the
on your
primary
tools. You're-
reason of a
you're
harness?
crouching down, but
Is the
exactly.
safety,
It's
obviously.
in some things you shouldn't put comfort above the actual safety and the function of it, and that's why a lot of the safety professionals out there didn't really like that harness. But the guys who were on the tools, the guys who were
They liked
wearing
it.
it,
They
they
loved
liked
it.
it because it was comfortable.
But how was the testing going on with those things?
It still passes CSA. It's just that now you got to make sure that part of any sort of training is that you're reading a user manual and understanding how your equipment specifically works. Because again, we all have different harnesses. So the harness that Henry has on, probably one of my favorite harnesses.
Why?
There's a lot of reasons to this harness. So that harness there has a repel resist webbing. So the webbing on it is, kind of think of it as like a Scotch guard, right? It's so tightly woven that water and moisture beat off of it. So on a dusty construction site, dust and particulates aren't necessarily entering the web. When they do enter the web, they start to act as an abrasive. So then you
Okay.
start to see those harnesses that look a little peach fuzzy,
Yep.
right? That's because those broken fibers that happen. That harness also has padding that comes with it. So you kind of solve two birds with one stone. Some guys don't like padding. It's too hot. Some guys love padding, but they don't get it. That padding can actually be taken off. It can be removed. On the back of that harness is a stand-up D-ring. So if you've ever connected your lanyard or your self-retracting lifeline, if you've ever connected your lanyard or self-retracting lifeline, trying to reach, right? It stands up.
Compared to mine.
Compared to his, where what we usually see is that sort of D-ring, guys move the D-ring further down to make it easier for them to attach. Then on top of that, yeah,
I can't do that. I'm too old for that.
so you can kind of come in from the top, and when you can reach the top of that D-ring, it makes it a little bit easier to connect. But it also has a no-tangle back pad. So if you've ever tried to untangle or untwist your harness and try and figure out which way's up and down, then when you turn back around, Henry, it's got revolving torso adjusters. So
you're doing great,
proper
Henry, by the way.
fit. I know, he's a fantastic model. Wow. Proper fit and comfort on this is that if I take off a jacket, welcome to Ontario. We start off today or yesterday. It's a little cool. We have a jacket on.
Layers.
Then I'm going to take off my jacket in the afternoon because it got warm. So that is a kind of a no BS. There's no reason that you cannot adjust that harness in less than 30 seconds. You've taken off your jacket, boom, 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 quick and easy, roll up your torso adjusters. Life is simple. Then it also has stainless steel grommets on it, which again reduces the rusting, corrosion.
It'll last longer.
Yeah, absolutely. That harness is it's kind of like the cockroach of harnesses out there. When we look at, they still roam the earth. You can't call it a dinosaur, right?
They were here before us. They're going to be here after us.
Exactly. That is a fantastic lasting harness. So it's kind of like the good, the bad, good, better, and then best. But that's a fantastic happy medium that satisfies a lot of safety guys. Or folks in the field, because now it's one harness. We're going to reduce a lot of complaints. The revolving torso adjusters also stop that D-ring slippage that happens. Mm-hmm. So as you're wearing your harness throughout the day, then sometimes those adjusters start to slip. Yeah. That stops it, kind of sets it and forget, set it and forget it.
So price-wise, are we talking about most expensive to least? Or
I've got the economy one on.
Okay.
Galvanized hardware, so it'll start to wear. You can get some rusting on it. The adjusters that I have on my hips here, they're just spring weighted. So you can get slippage on them. But this while it is an economy harness, it's our economy harness version. There are harnesses that are cheaper than this. This still is a 4-point or a 5-point adjustable. Mm-hmm. You can get 3-point out there, so you don't have additional adjustment on the hips. So you really can't fine tune that back D-ring to it. Other ones have much thinner webbing to it, especially this one on the lower half of it. It is like on the leg straps and stuff like that. It's a much thicker webbing.
Right.
And I would say these are our number 2 selling SKUs.
By volume, this is our top seller.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You don't want to stand up? You're tired of sitting and standing?
Well, if I stand up, then you can hear me.
Oh, I can.
No, she can commentate. Yeah. No, but you gotta stand where the mic is so that I can see you in the shot.
Sorry. But when we look at an economic harness, we're not talking like cheap, like where it's falling apart on you.
$19.99 and get 3 for one, right? It ain't that.
No, it's not. But it's still right there in the realm of that. The material is still fantastic. We're putting safety. We've got safety and comfort all at the same time, right? It's available in a variety of sizes. And then kind of goes, there's a few different models.
A lot of the economy harnesses, they'll use the same thinner webbing on the top as they do on the bottom. But, working in construction, you're sitting down on concrete edges and all that other stuff. So you get a lot of wear that happens on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and then Andrew, you got a harness on?
I do.
It's almost camouflage.
So I know. One of the things that we talked about at the top of the episode is a crossover harness versus a kind of a vest style. And Andrew's kind of got more of a crossover style versus what I have. I've got the regular vest style. It looks like an H on my chest.
Yep.
Andrew's, it comes in closer. Because one of the biggest problems you have on harnesses is especially on this H style is this holder loosens and then they slowly start to spread.
Okay.
The other problem, if I'm working in front of me, you can see as soon as I put my arms in front of me,
it gets in.
It starts to kind of come in and buckle. She's got a more free range of motion because it actually comes in and it stays tight right on the front.
Yeah, I like that one better.
Of course you do.
Yeah, and it's without it being a true crossover. Like I have one.
You have more arm movement, right?
So much more room for activities. Yeah. which is nice. And then there's, again, goes into different features because then the padding's different. You know, the buckles are different. This is a quick connect versus like grommet style. But I love grommet style, especially for construction. That's the easiest way.
Does that cover everything on harnesses?
Not really.
Okay, keep going.
I mean, we can talk for a few more hours.
Keep going, but we got to talk about other things too.
I mean,
We can talk
I could
about a few
add
myths.
something.
Okay,
here.
what's that, Henry?
I do a lot of the inspections. Like, I'm the one just out there doing it, like seeing all these crap harnesses that are just beaten down. And as Andrea said, calling this the cockroach of harnesses, I thought was pretty hilarious because you do see these, and a lot of the time they are not failing because of what she said.
They're durable.
They're durable. Right?
Unless you weld with them,
As you said
and then
about
that's a
like
different story.
this type of webbing is more like weatherproof, right?
Welding sparks are not going to do anything to that?
Not on a nylon web, so that would destroy. Like if any of these harnesses that we're wearing right now, when we were welders, like so welding spatter or grinding, any type of heat that would come in contact, it would all melt. So that's where we get into like a hot works harness. So again, it's like a Kevlar blend. It's 8 cal, but it's going to outlast because if we got a welding spatter, it's only 1/8 of a hole. It's done.
What did you say? It's a cowbell? What?
8 cal
Calorie.
rating.
So with arc flash, you measure things by calories. It's about how much energy. Same thing with our body. We measure how much food we eat by calories. It's just a matter of energy.
CAL or KAL?
C.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Calories
that.
is the same,
Okay,
cool.
same thing. So it's an arc flash rating.
Yeah. So if we were dealing with like live power, we were utility linemen, then we would go into an arc flash harness, which would have a 40 calorie rating.
And that's a big
That's
arc
a
flash
kaboom.
explosion. That
Calorie spelled the same way as calorie?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing as measuring energy.
It's the energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If you've ever gone to Kinetrics in just downtown Toronto on your way into Toronto, they do a lot of arc flash testing. It's pretty wicked to see, like for the arc flash clothing and
They're
to
literally.
feel.
It's literally like electrical explosions. That's what that is.
And you're testing all kinds of
Yeah. So
material.
if it's a hot work harness, there's a little bit of testing that goes into arc flash. Much more testing to go into it because you get a lot of heat. Big boom. Yeah, it's a frightening thing when it goes off.
Yeah.
So
What else?
but,
Anything else on harnesses?
back to the inspection.
Oh, yeah.
point.
That's
So,
right. Henry was bringing that up.
Question for you: can you write on your harness with a marker?
Depends on what kind of marker.
It's like we've talked before.
No, well, the thing is, and that brings up the whole, and we'll discuss
Yeah,
it.
there's a
This-
very specific type
mean-
of Sharpie that you're allowed to write on your harness with. Can only be a Sharpie. The problem is when
Sharpies tested this and said that this is
The manufacturers,
The manufacturers
have tested it
have.
with their webbing. We always say
so the problem is when Henry
like
gets
this Sharpie would not work.
No.
This would eat away at the material possibly. This is a permanent.
And when he says on the harness, he means on the webbing.
on the webbing.
On the webbing.
So the webbing is what we're talking
Here's the
about.
problem. Even if you have the correct marker that you've written on it, when Henry goes to go inspect it, how does he know what marker you used?
It's true.
So what
Yeah,
he
no
does
idea.
is he
I
puts
did
them
not know.
aside, and then he'll ask you, what marker did you use? If you can't answer the question, it's garbage.
It's garbage. Yeah.
Because we
good
don't
point.
know what it's done to the webbing. Same thing with any paint.
So which Sharpie is it?
It'll be outlined in the manual. I don't remember the exact model number. Do you?
no, it's been a while.
It doesn't
but
say harness on
we
it.
always just say best
You have
practice.
to check your manual.
Yeah.
It's written in the manual.
Yeah, everything that constitutes fails for harnesses is in each manufacturer's
Yeah.
manual.
So any paint, any adhesive, marker, like just don't
lead?
Don't
No,
do it.
lead's fine, but you can't really. It won't write lead.
You don't
You
want
probably damage the harness more
Yeah.
while you're trying to write
Yeah,
on
you're
it with a
carving it.
pen.
you see me trying
Yeah.
to
It's
erase
like,
it, get
you
it
know,
off.
leaving initials on a tree or something like that,
Yeah.
right? That's what, but then
What
you're
ends up
damaging it.
and what ends up happening too is how we all write our names on a harness. You've got those people who like to claim something in an office, right? So one person, I would put like AM, here's mine. Then Henry could take like big
Oh, no.
block letters and write
My early days, I
Henry.
would write stolen by.
I've seen
That's
some
what I
good
would write.
harness art.
Yes.
I can say that.
Yeah,
And that's why when you start getting into things that are a little bit more away from the bare bones economy stuff, there's always spots in it to write your name on it. The best place to do that is like back of a label, but don't cover the label if there's printing on it. Because if we can't read the label, guess what happens?
It's actually
It's garbage.
It's toast.
Really?
Out of
If
service.
you can't read anything that has to do on the label, whether it's a warning, whether it's
So if you get
what the
material
model
on
number
it
is,
and it just
cut
dirties-
off a label.
you cut off the labels, exactly.
Yeah.
It's garbage. And that goes from harnesses, that goes to SRLs, that goes to lanyards, rope grabs, everything.
Yeah. And the reason being is that within that label, there's a lot of information. Usually the lot number refers to, like on a harness, that lot number is now going to, on the back end for the manufacturer, go, okay, we got this webbing from this lot number. So if a manufacturer has a product recall or a product inspection, they can pull whatever it is that might have failed or whatever needs to be inspected based on those lot numbers or the date of manufacturing. And then they put out those product inspection notices. So
Serious
then it
business,
kind of
eh?
leads into
It
like,
is. And you know, before every use, you as the user, the wearer of the product, is supposed to inspect
Inspect it.
But
Yep.
also what Henry does is you have to have a yearly inspection done by somebody other than the user of the fall protection and somebody that's deemed what they call a competent person. So they have to have
competent qualified.
Yeah.
Competent person.
I know you look, what does that mean?
I don't know. What color hard hat is that?
Great question. We'll get into that later. But competent person, you have to prove competency somehow is how it's kind of written.
Like a training, a course.
Yeah, training is a great way to do that because then you have a certificate that you completed this course. But could you be considered competent if you've been doing it for 15 years, even though you haven't had the course?
If you've been doing it wrong for 15 years, you can't really be competent, but
We go back to safety.
That's that gray area that we're
Variables,
talking
right?
about. So, experience is one of the ways to prove competency. But again, you've already poked the hole in that. Doing the training session is a way to prove competency.
Being updated.
But where did you get your training?
Yeah.
Can
Who?
also be a little bit
Yeah.
of an issue. So there's other ways to do it. So we provide that as a service. We make sure that people who are doing it, like Henry, are very well trained. He's got a backlog of training. The person who did the training for Henry, he's got his proof that he was trained. So, and it goes down the line.
Yeah.
it's like ancestry training, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, because those that are competent aren't always qualified, and those that are qualified aren't always competent. We see that a lot. In
Let me ask you
safety.
another question that is probably going to cause your eyebrows to go up. Who would be the one to ever determine whether or not you're a competent person?
Who?
Who would ever matter that would determine that?
The person that's in.
It'd be a judge.
Oh, okay. You're getting legal now.
If you're
Mm.
getting sued, that is the only person really that would prove whether or not you were competent.
Based on
So-
the evidence or whatever.
And that's the way
Yeah.
that I always frame it to customers when they're trying to figure out who can do the inspections is if something happens, God forbid, and you need to prove that the person who did that inspection knew what they were doing, the person is going to be deciding that as a judge. So how would you make sure to have all your ducks in a row so that it is not on the
That's
fault
a
of
good
your
point.
company?
Yeah. So that leads into the next question: expiry dates on fall protection.
Well, that's a variable, right? Is it not?
No.
No. So
There's an actual fixed expiry date manufacturer?
So there's some more in like I would say in the utility market, but in the day-to-day construction industrial market from the manufacturers, there's no actual expiry date because it is based on the condition, not the age. So if some folks will put on a harness and they're like, hey, I'm good for 5 years, off I go. They don't do pre-use inspections.
Where
They
do
don't
they
have
get the
annual
5-year number
inspection.
from?
It's always been one of those things. In one manufacturer's user manual, it used to say 5 years, or as long as the product continues to pass pre-use and annual written inspections. But everybody stopped reading at 5 years.
The
So
rule-
some companies will put in a 5 year internally. They're going to put in a 5 year. But I question, is it 5 years from the date of manufacturing, or is it 5 years from the date that you put it into
Sale.
service?
Yeah.
And the 5-year thing came about is because the CSA usually updates every 4 to 5 years the CSA protocol of how to build the harness. So the 5-year kind of just got into people's heads of like, if I do it every 5 years, then I'll stay up to date with the current, what the current regulations are for building that harness.
But the real answer is there is no expiration date.
There's no expiration.
It's how you maintain
Yeah.
it, take care of it.
As long as you keep passing those yearly inspections,
And
Yeah.
pre-use.
your pre-use inspections, you don't find anything wrong with it, it can last. Now, I mean,
Well,
what do you think the average is? The stuff I know when I used
Well,
to do
because wear and
inspections,
tear,
but-
right?
I mean,
It's like
imagine the
conditions.
harness is sitting in storage for 5 years, and it's like a brand new harness made in 2020, right? That's
What if it's in a
why should that
bucket in the
fail,
back
right?
of a pickup
Well,
truck?
then you look at it;
like
it's covered
10
in mud,
summers.
it's soiled, it's
Moisture.
done.
Yeah.
Well,
It's failed.
if nothing's gotten to it, no water's gotten into it, and it's just kind of been sitting there, it's probably
It should
okay.
be
But you,
fine. It'll be faded.
But the heat, the moisture, it stays in, it gets cold, it gets hot.
Here's a question:
et cetera.
Those buckets
if
aren't
it
watertight.
freezes in
No.
water, like if it ice bucket or something like that, does that damage a harness?
Could potentially.
potentially,
You'd have to look at the web feel.
like,
That's
this is getting real down a scientific rabbit hole, but when water freezes, it expands. So if you
Yeah.
have the webbing,
And if it gets
soaked,
inside the webbing,
it'll
Yeah.
the ice will expand inside of the webbing and force
Loosen
it
it.
apart. And
Yeah.
is it damaging the fibers? Maybe. How do you know? Great question. The real question is, do you want to take that chance?
no, you don't, and you don't need to get a
Yeah,
Milwaukee
I don't.
microscope and look
I
into
never
it, right?
tell people that it's okay to leave their fall protection in a bucket in the back of their truck through winter. I don't like that just because of that. You don't know if
I think
it
you
has
should
got-
take care of it. I think you should
Exactly.
have
Absolutely.
a pack out or something that is dedicated. It has a harness, and they're nicely folded in there as if it's your closet. You know what I mean?
What
If it
I like
gets
to
wet,
say
hang it
is,
to dry.
if you take care of it, it will take care of you when you fall.
That's true.
Golden.
That's always, it goes back to the when in doubt, throw it out, right? I'll ask people when I'm looking at harnesses, like Henry could go out and weld tomorrow and put a welding spatter burn on his harness and go, I'm good for 5 years. But I look at guys and go, would you eat yogurt that's a week or 2 weeks past the expiry date in your fridge? And they're like, oh, hell no. And I'm like, okay, so let's
Unless
look
they're
at your
electricians.
harness
It's like
and
eating
walk
yogurt
through
that
all the potential
smells, like,
failures,
if it's-
right?
yeah.
I said, what's the worst? A little.
Which
your-
brings up
your
a good
gut.
point, because if you lend your harness out to somebody and they do something they don't tell you about it, and then you throw it on right away,
That's where your pre-use inspection comes in, right? So it does come down to a lot of things, but goes back to the Working at Heights training course. It's an 8-hour course, but then that's not just it. You don't finish at that 8-hour course. Then internally, there should be other training that happens. So whether you purchase new leading edge SRLs, that site, those people that are using it, they need to have product specific training. They need to understand the ins and outs of it. We don't have to get crazy technical about how a pawl and a clutch all work inside a self-retracting lifeline, but to understand the limitations to the actual product specific training is needed. That's why when it comes to the harnesses, that specific training too is a requirement.
we want to get into lids next.
Sure.
They're evolving. No, I see that you got a collection there.
Evolving, yes and no. They're really the standards on head protection have been relatively static. So we all think about the classic hard hat that we have. It's just a plastic shell. You put it on your head.
With a painted initial on the front.
Sure, you could do that. I don't really.
You borrow your kid's tooth or a paintbrush from kindergarten or something like that, and you painted your initial. Isn't that how the old school guys used to do it?
You're not really supposed to be modifying your
No.
helmet like that, but
No.
there's a lot of things that you're not supposed to do. I mean, why don't we just get into this part right now? Can you put a sticker on your hard hat?
Again, it depends on the manufacturer, right? Yes or no, or yes?
My hard hat is covered in stickers.
I
But
think
that's because I
every
have job site
trade-
That's what most
requirements,
people-
right?
Yeah.
Right? I have.
You take a site orientation. What do they give you at the end? A sticker. Oh, you put it on your hard hat.
I can't go on site without the sticker being on my hard hat.
The manufacturer comes in, the manufacturer's hard hats, and they do a safety day with you guys and a talk. And then what do they hand you at the end? A sticker with their
Sticker,
logo on it.
exactly.
You put it on your hard
Put it
hat.
on the hard hat.
Yeah.
But are you supposed to put those
So-
stickers on the hard hat?
Yes and no. Is the answer is with a lot of things. The concern is that the adhesive could break down the shell of the hard hat material. This is where
A weak point?
just make it a little softer. The chemicals in the sticker can damage the plastic. Personally, I don't see that as that big of a risk. What the big risk though is when you get a big sticker like we have on this one. If I've dropped this now
And I don't
and it's
see behind
cracked,
it.
how am I going to tell?
That's a good point.
To me, that's more of the bigger risk is you don't know what's going on
You
under
can't
here.
visibly inspect it
Yeah.
before putting it back on.
It's like a Band-Aid before an injury's happened. It's already covering up that injury of the hard hat.
That's a good point.
And various hard hats come in. You have your type 1s and your type 2s. And I'm going to come back to the sticker thing in a second. But so type 1 is impact from above only. Type 2 is impact from above as well as a lateral impact.
Side.
Okay. So not only things swinging into your head, you think about if you slip, tripped, or fall. Now you're hitting the back of your head as you fall backwards, right? So the type 2 would give you some protection against that. And the reason why I'm circling back around to that is I got my sticker in the front. It's cracked here. Oh, it's okay. I can just look on the inside, but not with a type 2 because we actually have some material here that's going to absorb that lateral
material.
impact. So now I can't see
You can't
the
see
underside.
even behind that.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's good or bad.
So that's the risk of putting a sticker on your head protection.
Do the manufacturers say anything about that?
Yeah, you can put a sticker on it as long as the glue doesn't degrade the hard hat shell.
Okay.
Are you a chemist?
Yeah. No,
I'm not.
Exactly.
But I'm also assuming like high heat summer work hours, 8 to 10 hours on high heat. It's just baking that adhesive. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
amplifying
the back
it?
of your truck.
The other thing
Hanging
is
in the back of your truck, right?
The other thing is UV
Sunshine.
damage. I mean, it's
true.
Like hard hats do not last forever. There were certain manufacturers that came out with little stickers on it. Again, putting stickers, but a little sticker on it that changes color when it potentially could be UV damage. So then you know to throw away your hard hat. But again, it's not rocket science and exact. So like that hasn't really ever taken off as an indicator.
So the best thing is don't put stickers on there. And once you see a crack, it's done.
That's my preference, but again, you have stickers that come out for site orientations, and it's mandatory going on your hat. There is one sticker that I really do approve of, and it's called a Vital ID tag, and you can put it on the side of your hard hat. I don't have one here; I should have brought one, but it basically is just a little folder on the side of it with a piece of paper in it that you write down your name, emergency contact,
Blood
if you have any
type.
allergies,
Makes sense.
you put your blood type. Because if something happens to you and you're unconscious, at least they have something to go on, because you might not be found by your buddy. You might be found by somebody else on the job site who doesn't know you.
That's a good point.
And then at least they have a little bit of that medical information there to actually.
How big is that?
It's small.
Just small, yeah, because you can even get the tags where like the cable. I have them on my backpack with the Vital ID tag, where it's just on my backpack versus my hard hat.
The other thing that I tell people, there's always that emergency thing on your cell phone as well.
Yeah.
That has the medical information that you can get access without logging in, like using your passcode.
Unlocking it.
So
Yeah.
unlocking it. Thank you. I couldn't think of that.
I'll answer one question.
So yeah, that's another good way of just making sure that that information is there for in the event that something does happen to you. It's a very simple thing to do as well.
I'm noticing a lot of the hard hats are going full rim now instead of just a frontal.
Yeah. So the full brim has been around for years.
No,
I mean,
but now becoming
guy is-
mainstream, like more and more.
Yeah, this guy's been around for years and years.
Yeah.
And the whole idea about the full brim is when you're out in the sun, now you get more shade.
You're a cowboy.
This keeps it off the back of your head,
Yes.
the back of your neck. So now you don't really have that much of a sunburn risk and all that other
I know,
stuff.
but they take their swag, right? They can get their like white cap swag and put it on the back there on their head, and then they have a little,
you can get
Yeah.
a little hood there, right? Super trade.
it's
Yeah,
just
that
the
kind
neck
of thing.
shades, right? So the full brim kind of gets that.
What's with the whole
So-
AV audio system that's going on top
it's
of
just
there? Does
a-
it play 8-track or what's going on?
That's a light. So you have your light on the front, and then to balance it out, you have your rechargeable battery pack.
Let's see how bright that light is. Whoa.
Don't aim it at me.
Well, you don't want to see a small square for the
Right?
rest
Are
of the
those
time
for,
we're
are those
recording?
for minors or minors?
I'll let you decide. So anyway, I basically have a couple.
But what's the rest of it then? What's all the? Okay, it's on the back. What's the back? Is that a?
So I got earmuffs.
There's the earmuffs.
It's the
Oh, the
battery
earmuffs.
pack and the light. And
Oh, that's the battery
neck
pack for the
shade.
light.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is your regular. They're all considered Type 2. Doesn't matter what you look at here.
Type
but
1 is the classic
Type 1 is impact from
Just
above.
impact.
Type
Okay.
2 is impact from above and from
and
the side. So what we're seeing now in construction, it's a big trend for the big general contractors out in industry. They want to see a Type 2 helmet with a chin strap.
You think those will become mainstream? And everybody will be wearing it?
I do see construction as a
Absolutely.
whole going to that, and then there's probably going to be some regulations, because one of the biggest problem with head protection is if you slip, trip, or fall, and you're not like your head protection,
strapped.
even if you have the ratchet down tight enough, which how many times do you have the ratchet tight enough?
Just snug enough.
Snug enough that it's
Yeah.
not going to tip off
it
your
could
head if you look
yeah,
down,
but
right?
if you
fall, it comes off your head. Now you have nothing protecting your head when you hit the ground. So the type 2 with the chin, or the type 2 with the chin strap gives you the lateral protection. Chin strap makes sure it doesn't come off your head.
A bit more extra protection. So what I used to sell was a lot of hard hat tethers. So just clip onto your shirt and then your hard hat, because in construction, let's be honest, just like my hard hat, you'd be able to figure out who I was in the company I worked for. This is your business card.
Yeah.
Right? So you're standing over top of a bridge, the highway's underneath you, wind picks up, off goes your hard hat, it smashes a windshield of a moving car down below you. So that's where a lot of tool tethers and hard hat tethers came into place. But then also what we're seeing is that slips, trips, and falls, not necessarily people falling in fall protection gear and slipping off, but taking a trip backwards, because it's a construction site. There's not a perfectly even ground everywhere you go. So the head injuries that are coming from the falls going backwards is kind of what has created this change. And as we know, there's some big GCs out there that are really implementing it, and they're coming together into a construction council of their own, kind of sharing best practices. And that's where we see more of this kind of climbing style helmet. I used to sell a ton of those, but it was for confined space or
Yeah.
for tower climbing guys. Now it's for the everyday construction.
I could see it more also on material being moved around the job site when it's moved horizontally, and you're not paying attention. All of a sudden, you ran right into
Question: that is a risk. There are people that are running around construction
Metal,
sites. I've heard about it
rebar.
where they run into an I-beam sticking
Yeah.
out that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
at
Yeah.
head level, and that can cause serious head
Do you
injuries.
have another question for
A
him?
question for you, because I like quizzing you. But I like trying to flip the script on you here. So what's the number one cause of injury in the workforce, just in general?
Of injury? Well, there's
Yeah.
4 top ones, right?
What's the top one? What's the top one?
What's the top one? It would be fall.
Slip, trip, and fall. Not
Yeah.
just fall. It's slip, trip, and fall. We're not talking about at heights.
Slip,
doesn't
Trip, and Fall
include-
is an
Same
80s
level?
album, man. Like it's just
Slip, trip, and fall does not account to being at heights. At heights
it
is
can
not
be at any
included.
level. You can slip, trip, and fall
Exactly.
on a scaffold, on a
So that-
staircase,
Yeah.
on
And that's
main
exactly what
floor.
we're talking about. Is you slip on ice. That's a slip, trip, and fall. So, and that's why the chin straps is a big thing, because we do see a lot of concussions that happen because of slip, trips, and falls.
It's the bearded tradespeople that are going to be up against it. That's all you guys are all pretty much clean
Well,
shape.
so-
Well, you're definitely. But I mean,
I'm gonna
obviously the workforce is.
I'm going to
very-
show you something. So we all know the standard chin strap. You just
Yeah.
2 plastic
It's
pieces,
a-
you
it's
ram
a-
them together, you
yeah,
get caught
exactly.
in your beard. Ow, that hurts. This guy is
How is that
magnetic.
set up? That's all magnet.
That's just magnetic.
Yeah.
So you twist
So you can't
to
get
unlock.
beard hair in there.
You can, but it's not going to have that same.
Not like when your
Hard
mom used to
pulling.
put your helmet on,
Yeah.
right?
And then
But-
double
your-
knot it and
Yeah.
then just pull it.
But it's totally secure. And even if you have a glove, it's one hand to take off. And then when you go to put it on,
Listen, I agree with you.
You just get 'em close.
I'm just trying to think of the
you
workforce.
just get them close, and
Yeah, it makes sense.
connect.
How
So-
does it stay together then? If it's just snap
it's magnet, and then it's
and
also
then it locks into this position,
It locks into a groove. So then when you pull on it, it's not coming out.
and then to open it up, you're
then to
just
open it,
hitting
you just kind of do a
unlocking the
little twist.
groove.
It
Yeah.
pulls the groove off and whatever, and you just don't have that same length of that plastic buckle, and all the intricacies of where hair can get locked. So, guys with beards, there's your solution, and you can attach this. Comes 4-point, which meets the what all the construction companies are going to. Just wraps around the suspension in 4 spots, which is why it's called 4-point, and solves that problem.
You remember a few years back when, I'd say probably about a decade, they started dipping all the hard hats into cool colors and everything like that.
Yep.
Not
Yeah.
a good idea, right?
Again, when
You're
you
covering
wrap
everything.
a hat like that, you do cover up basically the entire thing with a plastic shell
But everybody wants to be cool and unique. And
there's
have a
other ways of
design.
doing it as well, where you don't use a plastic wrap on it. It can get expensive really, really quickly to do that kind of stuff, but it's all possible. Yeah. We do sell, the carbon fiber printed hard hat and stuff like that. It's just got a design on it. Looks
Yeah,
like
it's just a design. I got one of those one time because it was cool looking, but it was just a film, right?
Yeah.
But it brings
Exactly.
up the point that if I actually damaged it, I can't tell. I'll
Exactly.
see a scuff mark, but I don't know if that's a crack behind it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's really the risk, right? Because then if you do hit that same point, your head's absorbing it, not the hard hat, right?
Yep.
That's the danger.
And another good point about head protection is talking about the absorption. So, a lot of people think it's the shell that does the work on it. It's not. It's actually the hard hat suspension.
Yeah, the basket, whatever.
If you do any sort of hard hat testing and your hard hat suspension breaks when you drop something on it, that's not a flaw in the suspension. That's the suspension doing its job. It's breaking. It's just like the crumple zones in your car. That breaks to absorb the
It's
energy.
taking the energy.
Right? Because if we don't absorb the energy, where is all that force going?
Arquebisa. The
Your
head.
neck.
Oh, the neck? Well, it works its way down.
Yeah, because it just goes straight down. So,
But I know you guys told me about how the brain jiggles.
Yeah, so that's I was trying to slowly get there as well.
Oh, I beat you. All right, good.
I'm kind of meandering through things back and forth a little bit, but yeah. So we have the type 1 and type 2 hard hats, and then there's what's happening a lot in industry right now is we're getting into these climbing helmet styles, and also kind of this is what is considered a climbing helmet. The inside is much kind of beefier. It always will have a chin strap to it. This one's from Milwaukee. I've got another one here from a company called Wavecell. And this one has upgraded internals to it. So it's not that foam.
It's like a gel thing, right?
It's like this plastic kind of wave thing in it. Other companies have things like MIPS is a big one. If you follow NASCAR, you'll know that's what they use. And the idea with this is when you get a concussion, it's not the force of your brain hitting your skull that causes the concussion. What causes the concussion is a twisting force on the brain, which will rapidly stretch the cells of your brain and compact them and create this kind of a shear force. And you get that not from a direct blow, but from a twisting blow. So what these are designed to do is take that twisting torsion out of that impact to make the impact more of a linear impact to prevent you from having a concussion.
So how do you get a twisting? You get a lot of
Well, if I
energy
fall
from one
back,
side?
How many times, if you fall, is your head perfectly aligned with the angle that you fall?
No, it's on an angle. Or
off.
or
A lot of the
off,
time
right?
you're
Yeah.
twisting, right?
So that's
and
what it
that's
is.
what it is the impact of the G-force isn't just a straight back and forth movement. It's a twisting movement. And that's what causes your concussion. And what it essentially is a little bit of brain damage that happens. And that's why you get those long post-concussion syndromes with people trying to deal with all those symptoms and everything else like that, because your brain needs to work to
And I'm assuming that if you get that kind of damage, it's not really repairable.
You can't.
It depends. We get into
It
a
all
different
depends.
world. Yeah.
And my sister's actually going through it from a car accident that happened in months ago. Unfortunately, she's still not back to work full time. Gets headaches and even has vision changes. She needs to go get glasses. She never had glasses in her life.
I've had my share of seatbelt bruise shaped.
Yeah.
She's slowly working out of it, but it's that, make sure you take care of yourself. If you do get a concussion, limited work hours, stay off screens, TV, cell phone, everything else like that, because that all can cause taxation on your brain and delays your recovery a little bit. So
Henry, what do you want to add into the whole hard hat?
I mean, He's went very in depth there. I don't know
Eric Huard,
how much I
MD.
got, but yeah, wow.
I've been doing this for a little bit.
I mean, with the concussion thing, I mean, this is, again, like what you're saying, not really our specialty, but like you just hear so much in other things like sports, and like you see these football guys with those new padded helmets, right? Like,
Well, it's just on a job
concussions-
site, the head is so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, these guys, that's where their technology came from, is football.
Oh, really?
Really? There you go.
Yeah. So it,
And they bump and grind a little bit there on the field. So
Yep. MIPS is working again with sports. I mentioned they came out of NASCAR. That's one of the areas that they really focused on, making sure that in a car crash that the head is taken care of. A lot of those technologies, they're being widely put through. And fun fact for you, the CSA Type 2 helmet design, the protocol that was designed, do you know why Canada leads?
Nope.
Hockey helmets.
It came from that?
That's where our understanding of the side impact came from, and why Canada has developed a
It
Type
was all
2.
side impact, right?
Because,
Majority.
well, you think about hockey, you want protection all the way around your head. You don't.
You don't know where it's coming.
Okay, we're going to get into gloves
Sure, we can.
because
get
there's a
into
whole
little bit
world of gloves, right?
Oh yeah.
And we can get very, very granular with gloves, but I don't think we all want that. But yeah, we can just do a quick jump through. So one of the things that's been happening over the last few years is on construction sites is going to cut protection
From blades,
from blades. Yeah.
power and hand.
Well, with power tools, spinning power tools, do you want to be wearing gloves?
Nope.
No, not
Never.
really. Especially things
That's
like
a
table saws. You never want to wear gloves with that, because if I have this string knit glove and there's a loose strand and that blade catches, it's pulling my hand
Sucks your
in.
whole hand in.
So anything that's spinning, rotational, you kind of don't want to wear gloves. If you do wear gloves, it should be leather, things that don't have a bunch of fibers in it. Something that's more uniform. But again, table saws and all that other stuff, you don't want gloves. If you're changing the blade on a table saw and the power's off,
That's different.
that is different. Okay. But we're all headed towards cut protection these days. There's a lot of sites, they mandate cut level 4. What does cut level 4 mean? It's just a minimum grams that it takes to cut through the glove. So the ANSI test that we use, I'm not going to get too deep in the grass on this one, but it's literally just a razor blade, and they put downward pressure and they pull it across the material. Does it cut? Does it not cut?
And some gloves are at cut level 4.
So they just measure the amount of grams that it takes to cut through the glove. And based upon that, they get different cut levels. We have cut level A1 to A9.
What does sheet metal trades use it? Because they're always the ones with the coolest gloves that never really fray.
So the never fraying thing is,
Well, maybe they don't fray
they
because
will.
they keep changing them.
they
right?
will. It's guaranteed they will, because sheet metal's
Sharp.
thin and sharp.
Yeah.
So you want a higher cut level. I recommend starting at least as a cut level 5. And the funny thing about
What's that in your hand right there?
This one's a 7.
That's a 7.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit more about specifics of these in a second, about what to look for to make gloves comfortable, because that's a big thing, is they need to be comfortable so you wear them. But the determining cut levels on a job site or doing a certain job task, there's no real hard and fast rule. You have guidelines. That's why I say you start with maybe a 5 on handling sheet metals, where I wouldn't go lower than a 4. But the reality is you kind of pick a cut level, and then are you still getting cuts? Yes or no? If you are, you go up.
So that kind of leads me into, do you know what the percentage of hand injuries are in the workforce?
In the workforce, it's probably the number one thing that gets hurt, other than your head, right? Your hard hat.
It's hand injuries make up about 25% of work-related injuries. And that stat hasn't changed I started in glove manufacturing. That was my first safety gig, and that was 21 years ago. That stat has not changed.
No.
Even with all of the technology that's out there and all the opportunities, we still see people handling sheet metal, razor blades with cotton gloves with the dots on them.
And you know what I think it's 40% is the root cause. They're not wearing the gloves.
No, because they are ignoring it.
Took them off.
It
They're
took them off,
uncomfortable.
exactly, right?
And the reason why, why I want to get back to the point of what do you look for in a glove is because if they're not comfortable, you're not wearing them.
I guess the question also too is, can you use the glove while you're using your smart device?
Some
You can.
Yeah.
you can.
But
It all
what cut
depends.
level would they be at though?
You can. This one you can.
You can use
It's
that
a
on a
7.
smart device?
Yeah.
Really?
It all depends on what the coating is and what they've done to the coating.
I remember the early days, like you kept
Yeah,
on
you
swiping
couldn't-
and you couldn't go
Even
through
on
anything.
some of the leather gloves, they're starting to put little patches on the fingers right by your index finger, so you can use that to use your smart device.
Pretty cool.
So they're trying to make it so you don't have to take your gloves off.
So keep them on the whole time, just
Yeah.
like your safety footwear.
Yeah.
Always use it, because when you take them off, that's when you get a splinter carrying wood.
Exactly. So with things with comfort on gloves, these string knits. The main thing is that it fits you properly. So they all come sized. You can get a bunch
Small,
of different
medium,
sizes, small, medium, large,
large,
or they
extra
do it by
large.
numbers. The manufacturer I have here is Spirit Glove. They love to do it by numbers. I have a really hard time figuring
So
out what
what's
the numbers
what's
Nine,
a what's
nine
a
is a
medium?
large, 8 is a medium.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 small,
It's
6
by, it's by color around here.
They
Yeah,
also, and then this is only standard within the manufacturers, but with Spirit, they always put the color of the size on this ring here.
So then you don't even have to figure it out. You
So now
just
you
go
gotta get a
grab the
manual to understand.
different sizes.
So
It
so
makes
white is what size?
Makes
and-
it easy for you because I need the white one.
Okay, but what size is white?
Large.
Medium, large.
What size? What number is that? 9?
You guys
9.
will tell people.
That's a large.
That's
So
a
that's a
9 is a
large.
large.
Once
Yeah.
you know your size based on your color, you're not going to forget it.
And then what? The 8 is a medium. Is it by single individual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 10 would be your XL.
You figure they might have
So,
gone like
and
odd even
it's
or
based
something.
upon, most of it is based upon the width of your palm,
Not the length of your
not
fingertips.
the length of your fingers. No.
Okay.
So generally there
I
are,
love there's a whole science to this thing. Like someone figured out how to sit in a room and try to do all the science behind all
Yeah.
this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
and the things to look for if you want higher dexterity is the gauge of the glove. So the higher the number on the gauge means the thinner it is. It's kind of backwards when
Kind
you
of-
think about it, but that's just the way that it works.
No,
with
it's the same as
textiles.
sheet metal.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 The lower the number, the thicker it
I don't know.
is.
It just, to me, it always felt like it was backwards, but I don't know. My brain's a little bit different sometimes.
Put a hard hat on.
Well, see, when I was younger, I played a lot of hockey and I was a goalie, so that probably explains a lot of things. So anyway, the higher the gauge, the thinner the material is going to be. We're up to 21 for gloves right now.
Which is insane.
it's-
Like it used to be 15.
What's that? Like a pokey glove? I don't understand. Like that's really thick.
Super.
No,
What's that
that's
used
thin.
for? What's the task that's used for?
Yeah, that's a 21 right there.
So
And
what
this
was
is
that?
also a cut level 6.
So,
that
your
would be sheet metal,
So you could use this for sheet
Yeah.
metal and still get
dexterity.
plumbing, copper,
Very good dexterity.
Yeah, fittings, electrician.
Yeah.
yeah. Here, put this on.
What size is this?
Large.
Yeah, I'm a large. That's a nice glove.
It's a very nice glove.
Do you have
But-
his brother?
Yeah. Do you want it for gardening on the weekend? Is that what you're asking me?
It looks like a gardening glove. It's actually
So
kind of nice.
And like I said, it is a
Got
cut
that new
level 6. It is touchscreen capable. At least I think it is. I should
You're gonna
probably.
find out.
Yeah, I'm going to find out in a second.
Oh yes, it is. It is. It is. Yeah, it's working. It's
So,
working.
And the coating on it as well is one of the things that drives up the cost of gloves. And this is one of the things that.
But isn't this just like
Yeah, but what's the difference between that and this?
this has got some webbing on it or something? I don't know.
Yeah, but that's got a black coating to it. But you can feel there's a difference
yeah,
between
this
them,
is
right?
thinner. This is a lot
Exactly.
thicker.
So the one on your left hand is called a polyurethane coating.
This is a different material than this material.
That's a nitrile
nitrile.
coating. So the nitrile coating is more expensive.
So this is a 6. This is a
7.
That's a 7.
But even if the shell was the same, the coating on it could be different. Yeah, the dip they have. So with the nitrile, it is a much harder wearing material. That polyurethane, if you're doing anything that is somewhat abrasive, even shoveling, might last a day or two, but the nitrile will last a long time.
I like that they got all the numbers right there.
Yeah, that's the kind of the latest change that's
Puncture,
happened.
abrasive, okay, and cut level.
They're kind of making sure that they're right in your face and you know what the ratings are of the gloves. Superior does a really great job of rating the gloves for everything safety-wise that you need. A lot of the manufacturers out there that are the cheaper gloves like to cut corners, and they'll give you your cut level, but they won't give you your puncture or your abrasion.
No pun intended.
And then also nitrile, right? There's different chemical resistance between polyurethane coating, latex coating, nitrile coating. So depending on what you're doing.
And you're also going to get grip differences.
Yeah.
So nitriles, that one particular that you have there is a foam nitrile. So you think about a car going down the street and it's been raining. Your foam nitrile has little pockets in it like the tread on your tire that allows you to get some grip in those wet and oily conditions.
Polyurethane, no working.
Polyurethane, no working. No, it doesn't
works
do it.
Eventually, it
Yeah.
works
Doesn't do
eventually,
it.
but not as good as this one. This one works right away.
Yeah, and the polyurethane, it's much cheaper. So a lot of the manufacturers, especially the low cost stuff, they like to use the polyurethane, but it will wear out a lot faster. And then if it wears out, you don't have your grip anymore. So then you buy more gloves.
Is it literally a guy just doing this to get the coating
It's a
on?
special machine.
Superior
Yeah.
Glove has machines that do it, and it literally is a hand form, and it just dips it into the.
Yeah.
It's just like 2 hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole
Like
rows
from
of
the Addams
hands.
family or
Whole
something.
rows
like
of
that.
hands,
Just two
and
And
hands
then
do
it
that.
comes up.
They dip it in,
little
and then they
shakes.
come up and do a little shake to shake off the excess. And
Pretty cool.
yeah.
I like that.
Another thing a lot of people don't know about cut protection gloves is your cut protection doesn't last forever.
Meaning?
As you're using that glove, especially on if you've worn down the material of your coating and you start wearing into the fibers,
It's done.
you start wearing away the fibers. So what happens to your cut resistance? Well,
You
it
don't
starts
have-
going lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
So then you can get an injury. So
And then even things like Kevlar gloves, right? Typically Kevlar cut resistant gloves, they're going to look yellow, but if they're left out and exposed, they start to turn brown. So if you had a glove over top of another Kevlar glove, you took it off a week later, sometimes you can see the color difference
From the UV?
because the UV, right? So there's Kevlar, there's Dyneema, and then there's all the different types of blends that are coming out now too.
And then there's a lot of people that knock off Kevlar, knock off Dyneema. Dyneema's HPPE fiber. I mean, we're getting into the weeds here. I can see your eyes start to glaze over a little bit.
No, I love gloves, man. I've always loved wearing gloves, putting gloves on.
Yeah.
But the problem is in the early days of construction, you could never find a good glove to serve the purpose of the task.
Problem of that is over. As long as you're willing to pay for the technology that's out there. That 21 gauge gloves, they're starting to come down in cost a little bit right now, but they're still a
What do you guys
premium.
sell them as, like per box or for 20 or something? I don't know how they.
Most gloves come in bags of 12. There's 12 pairs in it. Some come in 6 pairs. Typically, if they come in 12s, as long as it's a stocking SKU for us, we break that and we can sell them to you in a pair and do it by pairs. That's our preferred way to do it, because then your job site, you don't end up with a whole bunch of smalls and you only needed one person that needs a small. And so that's kind of the part of the value proposition that we bring, is you don't need to buy all this bulk packed gloves and never go through them. You can buy what you need.
Do you guys have gloves for every single trade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Electricians, like in live power too, we have electrical gloves.
electrical gloves. One of the big hot button
Fire-rated
topic
gloves? Yeah. What hot topic?
is the anti-vibration. So
Oh, that's right.
yeah. So
Something
if you're
else
on
I
a,
learned recently from somebody.
if who would that be?
I don't know.
You're cutting concrete with a big concrete saw. That vibration that's happening to your knuckles actually starts giving you nerve damage. It's called white knuckle syndrome. I forget the actual medical term for it, but the colloquial term is white knuckle syndrome. And if you ever stop the saw and you feel your fingers are like numb, that is the start of that. That's the start of that damage.
So that vibration is vibrating all your nerves?
It's vibrating your bones. Your bones are going back and forth, impacting the nerves and everything else like that. And your nerves are just getting taxed way over the top with a vibration and firing off. And it just is really bad.
Nobody thought about this. Like this
It's like MSDs, right? Doing the same reach every single day.
Yeah.
You're gonna have the same. You're gonna have shoulder issues or back issues.
Yeah,
So this is kind of the same.
Whether
thing.
you're on a jackhammer or saw, even impact guns. I was with a
SDS
customer
drilling holes.
Yeah, I was with a customer actually. That was Wednesday, and that's what they were asking me is like, we're starting to get some claims in about impact drills drilling into concrete, and obviously the cost of anti-impact gloves, they're not cheap to get decent ones. You might spend $30 a pair, but what does that do to your premiums for insurance and stuff like that as the business owner?
So the material is absorbing the energy? Is that
there's
the
two
idea?
different. The cheap version is the Michelin Man. You just have foam. Obviously, there's not a lot of dexterity that's going to happen to that, but the foam, as you get that impact going back and forth, just dampens it. Because that's all we're trying to do is dampen those vibrations. The more expensive way, there's actually a gel pad that's in here. So that gel pad is a lot thinner and then dampens that impact. So if you want to...
Could you see people wearing those in the summer,
look like
though?
a Ninja Turtle or...
Like...
Yeah, I've sold them to people in the summer.
Yeah.
They said the feedback was, these things are fantastic. My hands aren't numb at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's a goat skin. It looks like goat.
It looks like
skin.
that outside, yeah.
Yeah.
No, my
These are like weird.
Exactly. I call them the Michelin Man gloves because it's what you kind of look like with all
When
the
your
foam
hands
ridges.
just be soaked in sweat after using it in the heat. I mean, the trade-off obviously.
Yeah,
is very
there's always-
important, but
It is what it
it's
is.
just explaining to these.
Do you want
technology
permanent
here?
nerve damage, or
I mean,
do you want to be a
I know,
little bit
but
sweaty?
explaining it to workers,
What's
right?
with the wrist strap?
The wrist strap is just meant to make sure it gets tightened down and also provide a little bit of protection.
I thought it was like a gym weight glove.
No, you don't want the glove shifting on your hand at all. You want to make sure that it's kind of locked down.
Like a baseball mitt, man. It's got some cushion there.
That's exactly what does the job is that gel cushion. But it's got that goat skin palm. It's nice, soft, supple leather. One of the benefits of goat skin, as we can transfer into another topic, is if it gets wet, it doesn't dry out and start cracking. You think it more common in the cheaper leathers that are used for a lot of the leather gloves. You think about the fitter glove with the fabric back on them. They like to use a lot of cow leather because it's cheap. But if you get that wet, it's going to crack and fall apart.
Yeah.
The goat doesn't. It stays soft. It doesn't dry out like that.
Then you can make some curry goat.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. When are you inviting me over?
I'm in.
You got to wear your gloves. Okay, so you got gloves for every trade.
Yep.
Framing gloves too, or is it mostly the mechanical trades?
So it all depends on what you want to wear as a glove. I don't really say that there's a one glove for a particular job type. It matters what's comfortable, what the person likes to wear. There's certain job tasks where you have 9 guys out of 10 will wear a string knit like this, and then the other guy wants a leather mechanics glove because that's what he's more comfortable in. You can get them all with cut resistance, different puncture ratings, and all that other stuff. So it's what is going to make that worker wear that glove is really what our end users are looking for.
I think it's smart. Tradespeople should always be wearing gloves because you don't know what you're handling and less risk of getting injured.
Yep. One of the very niche subjects that's out there actually is when it comes to job sites is anti-needle stick gloves. Because construction job sites, unfortunately, there's some people out there that are recreational drug users. And because it's a big open area, half-finished building, it's kind of a great place that they go to get out of the public view. So, and then it's up to the workers at the job site to go clean up after. And the big risk is you don't know what's in that needle, and you can get needle stick gloves to make sure that when you're picking it up, you don't accidentally get stuck.
And that's from these guys too?
You can Yeah, you can.
You can
Yeah.
get stuck from those. Yeah, those will puncture.
That puncture is not hypodermic needle
Yeah.
puncture. That's more of like
Cut.
a sharp piece of metal type puncture.
Blade.
Yeah.
So like an Olfa knife or something
But
like that. Utility knife.
you have to get very, very specific needle stick gloves if that's kind of a concern. But yeah, there's a glove for almost everything except for spinning rotational power tools. At that
Where
point,
there's no gloves.
you know, even if you were wearing a cut level 9 glove and you try to put your hand into a table saw, it's not doing anything. Because it's
those days are done.
It's different. Your fingers are gone. The other thing I'll say: don't try to test your cut level gloves with scissors.
No.
I've seen this before. Scissors cut with a shear force. It's completely different than a blade dragging across the glove. So, just a side note: I have seen people come in with scissors and be like, "These cut gloves don't do anything. Look." And they cut the fingers off, and it's
with
like
scissors.
not the same thing. So
I want to get into hearing because I know last time that we did a show, I was amazed what I learned about hearing protection and decibel levels and all kinds of stuff like that. You guys want to shed a little bit of light on that?
sure. So
Not you.
I mean,
you're already tired of me. Man. I get it.
I want to hear Henry. I want to hear everybody else too.
I mean, that's not really my expertise, the hearing side.
Okay, fine, you.
But
Andrew, you want to
but
jump in?
I can chime
I'm feeling
in
self-conscious. I'm
when
talking
he
too much.
rolls it out. I'll chime in. But
When I ran a bar, I wish I had known about earplugs because I'll tell you, tinnitus that I got from.
I love
Yeah.
earplugs now.
Yeah.
I wish I loved them then.
Well, same thing, right? I get that ringing in the ears, that Sunday night karaoke. That's probably what it's from. But yeah, the getting into safety and understanding that just things that we do on a daily basis, your hair dryer being right by your ears, like just the consistent, constant noises that happen that can affect. And it's not just for people in the trades when it comes to hearing conservation.
If I'm seeing a trade with a hairdryer on the job site, I'm questioning other things. I've had to deal with the colognes. That I don't understand, by the way. Showing up on a job site, fully cologned out.
The Axe body spray.
No. You're talking about like some high-end cologne. And what's going on here? Are we, I don't know. What's going, we're working today. Are we not working today? Or are you working today? No, but I want to remind everybody that there isn't a single tool that is under the decibel level, right?
So the weird way that it works with hearing is it's all about how loud the tool is you're working and then how long you're exposed to it. The two of those come together to figure out how much noise you can be exposed to. But the general rule of thumb, if you're on a chop saw or table saw, jackhammers, definitely wear your hearing protection because you want to limit the amount of noise that gets into your ears. Ears are just like your eyes. If you damage them, nothing really we can do.
Nope.
So it's gone.
You can't.
So, especially later in life, because also the weird way hearing works is the exact way that your eyesight works, is it's going to degrade as you get older. So if you damage it early, you're not going to have as much left for when you get later in life. So you're 100% be destined for hearing aids and all the rest of that stuff. So protect it. Because there's little basically hairs that are in your ear in a fluid. And when you get exposed to large sounds, it really pushes that fluid back and forth with the vibration, because that's what sound is. And it snaps off the little hair. We can't shove Rogaine in your ears and grow it back.
I made that joke last time.
Yeah, I may have borrowed that one from you.
WSIB
It was a good one.
hearing loss claims are they're just pushed through WSIB because there's no way to properly.
You can't investigate it?
There's lots of testing. I just read today on LinkedIn that NIOSH is really pushing hearing testing. So there are manufacturers that have the capabilities of taking earplugs, putting them into the person's ears, and then spitting out the sounds, and then letting you know what that decibel rating is of that earplug that's in your ear, because you just can't take an earplug out of a package, shove it in your ear. There's proper ways to do it. You got to roll it. You got to lean. You got to shove it into your ear. You got to get it in so far, not just sticking out. So this actually allows employers to be like, yeah, we give these guys these earplugs. They were tested on this. They were trained on this.
But then
and we
they
have
just shove them right in.
Yeah, so
it's like
but
putting
it
a cork
covers
into
their
a
butt at
bottle.
the end of the day too, because they were taught how to properly
Yeah.
put in the earplug and then get the testing. It's like fit testing for your respirators, right?
I also feel like like the training is the guys are not following that, and they don't necessarily know exactly how it feels or sounds when it is in fully. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't know. They're like, oh, it's half in. Oh, there's a little bit of muting going on. Oh,
yeah, I can't
feel
hear you
good.
that well.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
It's
yeah.
fitting. The
Right?
number one thing that I tell people is you're looking somebody dead straight on, and if you can see they're wearing earplugs, they don't have them in far enough.
Yeah, they should be like
They should be
pretty
buried
much
right inside.
right
They should
in.
be buried
yeah.
right in.
So you take like the old regular earplugs, you should be rolling them down to like that.
Yeah. So the proper way to put the earplug in, Andrea quickly went over it, is that motion over the head, and then you're grabbing the top of your ear. You're pulling up, and the reason why you're doing that is you're trying to align your ear canal
Open
to
up
make
your
it nice
ear,
and
yeah.
straight.
Got it.
And then with your rolled down earplug, you put it in, and then you hold, and let it expand. Because if you don't hold the end, it starts expanding and it pushes out.
And then it's going to fall out.
Right? It doesn't necessarily fall out, but it's not seated in properly, blocking all
And you're
this.
still, okay. But I guess in majority, you could put the plugs in, but I started appreciating the cans.
The cans are great because you just throw them over top. They're a lot more user friendly. You can get them on and off quicker. The problem with the cans though is you typically don't get as high of a noise rating as you can with plugs.
The problem with the cans is the snake in the toilet. And what I'm talking about is if you throw your cans in a bucket in the back of the truck, a spider can crawl into your cans, and then you grab exactly.
You just no, I'm at. I don't do spiders.
I always grab
so
cans
I'm
and I
like,
always look at it and I go inside and shake it around because I do not want to have a spider go into my ear. That's the problem with the can. But they're much better. I find them much better on.
I agree with you.
especially the louder tools.
I think part of the problem you're getting to is stop throwing your stuff in the back of your truck.
Basically, have it organized, clean. Maybe put it in a Ziploc bag so then the spiders can't get in there.
right next to the bucket harness.
Yeah.
No, you got the pack off nicely folded. It's like
Yeah,
treated
right.
like tailored suit, right?
Yeah,
I think you got to take care of it.
Yeah.
See, that's what I would do if I had your money.
I don't have that money. I don't have that money. But the thing is, I want people to understand that it's not just that one cut. It's not that one drill and you just scream
Yeah.
that noise. I know you gave me an analogy last time about the car door window on the highway.
Yeah. When you're on the highway, that buffeting sound you can get, that can damage your hearing too. It's not only when you're on the job site that matters. One of the top things, and this is something that I used to do when I did health and safety events at job sites back when I was on the road selling, is educating the workers, especially the young workers, about listening to music and their earbuds and the volume that they're listening to
got
that
rid of
music
mine.
at. Because if you go too high, and iPhone's done a great job of it lately, of giving you warnings if you are listening to music too loud, because that was a huge problem. It still is a bit of a problem.
I went back to
Yeah.
the cans.
Yeah.
yeah, the Apple Watch would tell you too. Like
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
in a loud environment. But yeah, I noticed even on my phone
Yeah.
too that
My
if you're
wife
plugged
gets
in
that with
your
my
earbuds.
son every once in a while. You're in a noisy environment.
But I also want trades to understand the construction environment, because you can use a tool in between joists. You can use a tool that's getting reverb against off of
Yeah.
concrete,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and it amplifies it that much more. It
Way
makes
more.
it far worse.
Because
Absolutely.
that's a great point, is how close you are to that sound is going to make it a lot louder. And then if you're in a confined space, the sound waves bounce off walls and really get, you get that sound wave hitting you more than one time, because it goes out, hits your ear, but it goes out in the opposite direction as well, bounces off the wall, and then comes back at you.
Comes
Yeah.
back at you.
And that's
right?
why it's louder in a tight space.
What's the biggest issue with safety goggles that tradespeople keep on bringing up?
Let's go back one step to hearing. So
Well,
I'm not done with you yet on hearing.
okay.
Questions.
What? So now we're also getting a lot more technology that's going into hearing, because one of the biggest problems that you have with hearing is I put my cans on or my earplugs in, I can't hear what's going on around me.
Yeah.
That can be a danger.
Yep.
Right? Whether you don't hear the backing up of a beeping truck or something like that. So now the big thing that they're starting to roll out more, and it's becoming a lot more accessible for less than $100 you can get these, is electronic hearing protection. So what they have is a speaker on the inside microphone on the outside, and they're passing through noise into your ear of what's going around you. So now you can be beside somebody who's jackhammering and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's just it's picking and choosing and amplifying your voice and
The
cutting
lower
everything off.
frequencies?
It cuts
Yeah.
the frequencies
Yeah.
of the
Anything
power.
that's over 85 decibels is usually the magic number. It brings that volume weight down, and then it looks for human voice, and it amplifies that and brings that volume up.
So much technology.
Oh, it's pretty
So
impressive.
you can get them in earmuffs, you can get them in earbuds.
So there's no more yelling then.
And the corded earbuds, you can even get them uncorded now too.
A little dangerous depending on the task at hand, right?
The cord goes around behind the neck. A lot of people don't like it, but the corded was there because they just needed that for a larger battery pack that was down a little bit further. But now they've got the battery packs small enough that they're just in the buds, and then now you can put them in your ears. Yeah, some of them you can make and take phone calls to, listen to music as well. Yeah, so
A lot of distractions on the job site. We got to behave with how many distractions, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
and that's always been a little bit of my point of listening to music. Some sites have that banned, so they do have active noise listening devices that aren't Bluetooth capable as well. So then, if that's what's mandated on the job site, you can still be compliant and then still get the benefits.
But
of
listen
that.
to your construction podcast still.
Of course, if you're going to listen to anything.
Throw that
Right?
on
Safety
in the
corner.
can.
There's little breaks in the conversation that you could hear the trucks beeping, backing up. You can do. No, it's like that's the thing is you can't do music and then do podcasts. You got to separate. You got to get rid of both of them, right? But a lot of guys are listening to learn and make the day go by fast,
Yep.
right? So I like that part. but I
Yep.
don't really
They've
get
actually
Awareness, right?
done
Yeah.
On the site.
and I keep going back to these random studies, but they've actually done studies for people who are on like assembly line work, who are doing repetitive job tasks over and over and over. Listening to music at a low volume while doing that actually makes them a lot more productive, and it also improves their morale within the job site. So
no heavy
there
metal.
are benefits to it, but there also is the concern that you're listening to the music too loud and you're not hearing what's going on around you, which is why
that other design
yeah.
works totally.
But the electronic earmuffs, you typically have the volume for your ambient listening different than your music volume. So you can bring that down and fine tune it in a way that you're listening more to what's going on around you and just have that at the low volume.
I wonder if all the old school guys would have paid attention to all that technology if it was back then, right? A little audio box with a corded, you know what I mean? All that stuff to protect your ears. But okay, now can we get onto eyewear? What's the biggest problem?
now-
I'm asking you a question now. What
Okay.
is the number one complaint when it comes to eyewear from tradespeople?
If it's not comfort, it's fogging.
Yeah.
Fogging.
Fogging for sure.
Fogging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many different options out there, right? Again, it goes like just like fall protection, good, better, best. There's where you have anti-fog. It's a coating that's built over top of it, but you take them off, you wipe them on your shirt. Over time, eventually,
Scratch them from
gonna
your shirt
scratch 'em.
because
So
there's
it's gonna wear off.
What Andrea is describing is not all anti-fog coatings are the same. A lot of it, there's really just two styles of anti-fog, and the rest of it is all marketing. So you get a anti-fog coating on your, what I call the basic anti-fog or economy anti-fog, that's just coated on the lens. It's not bonded to it any way, shape, or form. So as you start cleaning your lenses, you're wiping away a little bit of that anti-fog. And sooner or later,
So
you
it
just
was
have,
anti-fog in
It
the
was
beginning.
it
anti-fog,
was, yeah.
but it's now not anti-fog. It's the same thing as if you get an anti-fog spray and you spray your glasses.
I've done that.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Lasts a day maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
If
they're
that.
fogging up again, right? It's just
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. It just wears off. Then you get into the premium anti-fogs. And then that is actually kind of baked into the lens a little bit more. It's sealed into the lens. So it's going to be a lot longer lasting. Is it forever? No. It'll still wear away.
Yeah.
So, you especially with eyewear, you want to try to take care of it a little bit. Don't get the scratches in it. The least you have to put a chemical on it to clean it will keep that anti-fog there. If they're not on your head, you're wearing them. If you put them in a case, they're going to last a very long time. If you just think, oh, these are anti-scratch, and
Bucket.
you throw them in
I know.
in your bucket.
I know.
With
Your
soggy-
spiders
Then
and
you
your
pull them out, and all of a sudden you see scratches all over them, and you
Yeah.
wonder
It's
how did
'cause
that all happen?
They're,
Yeah.
they're not scratch proof. They just have a coating on it that helps resist scratch. I really wish they called it scratch resistant, not anti-scratch, because that makes it seem like it's going to stop scratches from happening, and that's not the truth. So if you take care of it, if you buy a little bit better anti-fogs to it, there's a lot of good ones out there on the market. I don't really have to name any of them, but they're, in my opinion, they're all just marketing, and everybody's trying to position them being better. But find a premium anti-fog and take care of the glasses.
Yeah, I totally go with
They'll
premium.
go a long way.
And then also find the ones that fit your face the best.
Yes.
Sit on your nose bridge and then also on your ears, and they work really well.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Because
And-
you'll get irritated by the ones that don't fit right.
Yeah.
Yep. Lightweight. Check the arms, making sure that there's no pressure points. That's the big thing, that they kind of sit around the curvature of your head, not digging in any way. Nose bridge, adjustable, padded. Those are the best ones. So then you're not getting the pinch point on your nose. And then the big difference on those really, really cheap import stuff to the better quality ones is actually the clarity of the lenses and whether or not there's any distortion. So when you put on safety glasses, one of the best things to do to check against that is just look around the glass in the room and look for anything that looks a little bit distorted, wavy.
On the edge of the lens?
Just all the way around the lens.
Yeah, if there's a little bit of distortion.
There should really be no distortion on a safety glass. You want it clear. You want to make sure, because when you have that means that the thickness of the actual lens, it gets thicker in that spot, which means it's not formed properly.
Yeah.
And you don't want anything that is not going to be formed properly, because that's affecting what you're seeing, especially in construction when you're trying to, read a tape measure or something like that. That's going to matter.
Is it worth the amber or the tinted? Because I enjoyed using the tinted in the summer months, especially with sheets of plywood that bounce light into your face.
Clear is good for when you're out of direct sunlight. There's no glare, anything like that. That's the best one to use. Yellow is probably the most often misused tint. A lot of guys like to wear it in sunny conditions. That can actually amplify the amount of light that gets into your eye and cause a little bit of, it's kind of like snow blindness. It's having too much light get into the eye and kind of starts to affect your retina. Whenever you look into a really bright light and you kind of see the spots, that's basically what it's doing. It's this temporary thing that happens to your eye. So you don't really want to use yellow. That's meant for low light conditions, dawn or dusk kind of time. Dark tints are great when there's glare. If you get a mirror reflecting to it, that's going to reflect even more of that sun glare back out of the eye, whether that's over a clear lens, which is what's called the indoor-outdoor.
Yep.
Or a dark tint. If you're just outside, the dark tint with the mirror is great because that reflects some of the light back. The dark tint reduces the amount of light getting into your eye. You typically want to use a gray filter to it, a gray lens or black tint. The reason why is because that's going to mute all the colors the same. If you get into any of those kind of weird, funky colors, it can distort the color a little bit and you might not really know. If your job and that matters to you, that's something to be aware of. Indoor outdoor is great if you are moving indoor and outdoor, because the dark filter might be a little bit too much when you're indoors, especially as you're transitioning. There have been incidents where people are rushing in from outdoors and your eyes take a little while to adjust. They get hit by a forklift because they just walked right in front of them. I know I came out of left field on that one, but
What are the forks doing so high? That's my question to the driver.
well, just guy's got a load and the guy comes running in through the door. And
With the fork so high?
well, the guy can't.
That's a Final Destination movie, man. Like,
I'm telling you, it's happened, and I know multiple times it's happened where the guy just runs through, and it's just like
you get that
pedestrian running off the side of the road.
blindness.
You don't
Your
have
eyes
time.
have to adjust.
Driver can't have time
I've
to
seen it all
stop.
the time.
Yeah.
You get older,
So-
you get that little dusk dawn thing.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of astigmatism going on there,
Yeah,
right?
that's why the indoor outdoor is better if you are moving indoor outdoor, and if you aren't moving, then stick to one. There's also the transition lenses. You've seen that where they go
Safety?
dark when you go outside.
There's transition safety goggles?
Yeah, the reason
I've never
why-
seen those.
The reason why you don't is because it takes time for them to transition, right? You have that same issue of going indoors, not being able to see.
Then you're going to
and they
take
haven't
them
ta-
off, and now you're blind. Or
but your eyes are trying to adjust at the same time as your lenses are trying to adjust, and that's why it hasn't taken off, is because there is that safety concern. So they're out there. They're very rare. My opinion is I don't recommend them.
Yeah.
guys, did we cover? Sorry, you guys.
So the only other thing I'd add to the safety glasses is that there are manufacturers that have the capabilities of putting foam gaskets that can be taken on or off on the safety glasses. So if we're dealing with fine particulates, did you find they fogged?
Yeah.
So then you got to
people have
move
that
up into
opinion.
a different fog.
So
They
there's
were great for the dust and like really high particles. They were wonderful
Yeah.
for that. But then you're blind. Fog.
whenever you're wearing a foam sealed, is what we call those. Two things you want. One is you typically want to go to a premium anti-fog, not just a basic anti-fog. So you want to kind of want to do your research on that and making sure that it has the best resistance against fogging. The second is, how does it fit your face?
Has a seat on your face, yeah.
But yeah, because our cheekbones are not all in the same spot. So you want to make sure, especially along the bottom here, when your breath comes up, especially in the cold days, you want it sealing better on the bottom. So then as your breath kind of comes up, especially if you're wearing a balaclava or, we got out of COVID a few years ago, that was a big problem with the masks were forcing air upwards. And that will stop the air from, getting up to the lenses, creating that condensation that happens on the lens.
I think we covered everything, unless there's anything else you guys want to share. I guess there would be just like, okay, your final
Eric's
message.
got the list.
Your final message out of here. And then I want to do the 12 questions with you guys, so we can do that one. But what's your final message to the industry, the trades?
My final message to the trades: be safe, see something, say something. I think that's the biggest thing. We got to look out for everybody. When we know somebody else has our back and we got theirs, we can't afford any more injuries and fatalities. So
important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Henry?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Just safety is your number one priority. You want to go home after work, right? So
Ask questions.
Yeah, that's how we learn.
That's really the number one thing. If you don't know, ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that there's no stupid questions. And if somebody makes fun of you for asking a question, there's somebody who really just doesn't get it, or they really don't have your best interest at heart, because we got to take care of each other.
Simple as that. All right, I want to do the 12 questions. This is like rapid fire. You guys ever see these? No. No. A person you guys would trade places with for a day. We'll start.
Person I trade places with for a day.
Andrea. I trade places with
You
Andrea.
trade places with me? Seriously?
That's cool.
Why so?
Trade places with you so I can ask the questions. Flip the script.
What's yours?
I don't know. I never thought of that question before.
We've had some interesting ones lately.
I know. I don't know.
It's hard.
It is a hard question. I can't even
For one
think.
day.
For one day, the Dalai Lama.
Nice.
That's a good one.
I picked you because I've always looked up to you.
Oh. Okay, well.
Everybody looks good in a robe.
Don't want to.
Guilty pleasure.
I guess playing music. That's something I like to do.
Mine's really boring. It's just
We'll be the judge.
unapologetically just doing nothing right now. I've got an 18-month-old right now.
Silence.
My life is busy.
I'm a reader.
What are you reading right now?
Psychological thrillers. So it's usually not a.
Oh, so you're the docu
If it's not
of the
user
serial
manuals.
killers, kind of watching docu-series?
Yeah, I love anything like that.
You making notes while you're watching them?
Yeah.
Least favorite tool?
Least favorite
This should be
tool.
interesting.
Well, I'm going to say any tool that you can't wear gloves.
Okay.
So it'll suck your hand and destroy
Pretty
your
good
hand.
one.
Yeah.
Pretty good one. Probably my table saw. It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It scares the hell out of I would say the same thing because my husband and I just recently finished our basement. And so I was helping him with the table saw and I was on the other end going, watch your fingers, careful. Yeah, it does scare me a lot.
I've had something fly back at me. Ouch.
Kickback.
Yeah.
I screwed up bad.
Biggest risk you guys ever took?
Biggest risk I ever took. My God. I'm too safe to take risks. Play it safe.
Cue card.
Yeah. There's nobody behind me showing me what to say.
Biggest risk you ever took?
You go first. I know you've got something.
I moved to Thailand.
For how long?
5 months.
That must have been interesting.
Human rights in Burmese refugee camp.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 20.
That sounds very dangerous.
It's probably, I actually felt safer in Thailand than I do in some downtown core cities in Ontario.
That's
so
a good point.
yeah,
That's a good point.
Thai people are good people.
With The Walking Dead downtown. Yeah. What's yours?
I've done some like stupid things before. But yeah, nothing really comes to, I'm pretty cautious guy to be honest, but you know, I've rolled all terrain vehicles before and done stupid things like that and tried to jump them off things that I shouldn't have when I was younger. So
My husband would have said,
probably kind of
get
that
married.
stuff, but
What else are they supposed to be used for?
yeah, it doesn't, that's standard operating procedure.
Best compliment you guys ever got?
I'm going to take the one that he just gave me. So like nobody's ever said I want to trade places with Andrea or be Andrea for a day. So I'm going to take that as my best compliment.
You want to go on that?
Best compliment? I don't know. I don't get enough compliments.
Someone
We
give
love
me
you.
someone
We
give me a
love you.
compliment. Someone give me a compliment quick.
You're very handsome.
Oh, thanks. That's it. Done.
You don't have one?
Somebody
I
says
don't
you
know.
look tanned. You're like, why, thank you. I'm a ginger. I got a little sun that
Translucent. Thank you.
sat by the window last weekend doing nothing.
Favorite beverage?
Ooh,
Canadian beer.
I'm a rum and coke guy.
a gin and tonic or old fashions.
What never fails to make you guys laugh?
A good story that a friend tells me. I don't know.
Just random comments out of left field. I just like random non sequiturs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always laughing. So sometimes, yeah, random jokes. I love it.
Worst piece of advice you guys ever got?
Yeah, that'll work.
Mine was,
Don't read the manual.
if you don't go to university or college, you'll be nothing.
Yeah, that is bad.
And I
advice.
didn't do any post-secondary. And here we
Who's
are today.
laughing now?
Right? Mr. Babcock,
What
grade 11
profession
history.
other than your own would you guys like to attempt one day?
Sorry.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day?
Police forensics. We already had.
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
talked about this.
I don't know if
That's where I started in
I don't have
university.
the stomach for it.
Is
I don't
doing
have the
that.
stomach for it.
I started doing that in university, working my way in that way. But
My psychological
dropped it.
thriller
Yeah. It
books
was-
and documentaries have led me to having the stomach.
it's interesting, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you say?
I was still thinking about it.
There's
There's
a,
no other
Yeah, I'll
profession?
be a rock star.
there's a career that I wish I kind of pursued a little bit, and that was professional hockey. I wouldn't have made the NHL, but like, you know, Europe, maybe I could have done pro hockey.
I wanted
But
to be a marine biologist.
That's also the reason why I'm here as well, because interestingly enough, when I graduated university, I was looking for a job. Wasn't really up to a whole much, wasn't getting much success on interviews and stuff like that. So I decided to coach a hockey team. The manager of that hockey team is what got me started at his workplace in safety.
So hockey led to safety.
It did.
The irony.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pretty cool.
Full circle.
What is your favorite vehicle? Any mode of transportation?
Any mode.
Oh, my truck. I'm
we
a
just
pickup
talked
truck
about
person.
Which one?
I have a GMC Sierra.
I was going to guess Ford. Okay.
No.
Not Dodge, though. It was never going to be
No.
Dodge.
I miss my motorcycle. I sold it when my son was born. So
I hear that's what happens. That's why I don't have a son. I still have a bike. What did you ride?
it was a CBR 650. So
I like my Camry. Nice vehicle. Simple, safe guy.
see,
here.
Henry's safe and reliable. All right? He's the Camry of White Cap employees.
I like my Camry.
Come on.
we know he's going to show up every
I've
day to
heard
work.
of like Lamborghini, Ferrari, Aston.
No.
But I like my Camry.
it's like-
now I got to get a guy to come on the
gonna
show
get you there.
to say I love my Camry.
I don't know if you're
Not just
actually.
like-
I can upgrade to love my Camry. I think it's pretty good. I like it.
Take an
Love.
Aston Martin, but the truck is going to get me further in life. So
And the last question: if heaven exists, what would you guys like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
not you.
That works too.
You did all right, I guess.
Well, you ended up here, so
We got to do this final thing. What's the question?
So I think the question should be, after a fall, how long do you have to rescue somebody?
To rescue somebody. How long
After a fall.
do you have to rescue somebody after they fall in a harness?
Yes. Working at heights, when you fall, how long do you have to take to rescue somebody?
And you get one of 25 of
they're
these.
hanging
Yeah.
in their harness. How long do you have?
That's it. So this is, all jokes aside, extremely important. And tradespeople need to go home and be safe and do the job safe and then come back to the next day to do more of that job. Simple as that. So I appreciate all the knowledge that you guys have shared. I've learned quite a bit on this. So reach out to them. What is it? www.whitecap.com?
Whitecapsupply.com.
Whitecapsupply.com.
There you go. I don't have it on my notes. Or do I have it in my notes? There's somewhere there. And then on IG, it is a...
Whitecap Supply. Whitecap Supply.
Sorry, I missed the cue.
Sorry, I give you the laser beams.
Well, that's right. You could have been pointing. That's it. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. We're out of here.
Thank you.